Hello everyone, this is a new episode of American Spaces On Air. My name is Juan Miguel, your host today. American Spaces On Air is brought to you by Instituto Chileno Norteamericano, American Academy of Science and Technology of Universidad de Cincinnati, by the U.S. Embassy in Santiago. And today we have a very special guest coming all the way from New York, Gabrielle Stravelli. She's a jazz singer. Well, you can tell us a little bit more about your origins. Like,
Sure.
were you born in New York? Did you grow up there?
I was born in New York, actually, in New York City, and I lived in a sort of a suburb, one of the 5 boroughs, we call them, in New York.
Nice.
Staten Island. Not the most popular borough. But I lived there until I was 8 years old, and then we moved to a neighboring state, New Jersey.
Okay.
So still very close to New York, and we had a lot of family in New York. My family, my grandparents are from Italy, but they immigrated to New York, many decades ago. So we have deep roots in New York. They came through Ellis Island and stayed in New York City. So I am the grandchild of Italian immigrants in the United States.
Do you know a little bit of Italian?
Very, very little. I actually know more Spanish than I know Italian.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Oh.
My parents didn't speak Italian in the house growing up, so unfortunately, my siblings and I didn't learn a lot of Italian.
And how did you learn Spanish?
They taught it in school.
Okay.
Yeah, and I had a great teacher, wonderful profesora, and I really fell in love with the language. So that's how and there are many people in New York who speak Spanish, so.
Yeah, that's true. Very diverse
get,
community there.
Yeah, exactly.
Very good. And what drew you into jazz music?
My parents played a lot of music, just in general, in the house for us when we were growing up. They're not musicians, but they love music. And they played jazz and big band and opera and Broadway cast recordings and like classic soul, like Roberta Flack and those kinds of artists. So they played so much music for us. They played a lot of Ella Fitzgerald. She was really the voice, the singer, who I think I heard the most growing up. And I always loved her voice, and I loved her music. And I loved the arrangements. I just loved those recordings. And so I always had an affinity for that music.
Since you were very young, a child. Mm-hmm. For those who don't know, well, maybe you can tell us more about her. Ella Fitzgerald was a very famous jazz singer. She was around in the 60s?
She was really, I think, started in earlier than that.
Earlier, actually, yes.
She started earlier than that, but she had a career for many, many decades. She was, even through the 70s, still singing, even as she got older, and even as jazz became a little less popular and rock and roll started to become more popular, but she was still so well respected and well known in the United States. She is a real part of American culture. Even people who aren't necessarily fans of jazz music, everybody has heard the voice of Ella Fitzgerald.
Yeah, even the name, someone knows who Ella Fitzgerald is.
I feel like people know Ella, they know Louis Armstrong.
Yes.
She's one of those artists that's such a part of the culture in the US.
Yeah. Changing a little bit, but not changing that much, the topic, you studied music in the US, in a US university. Can you tell us more about that experience? As you told us, you grew up in music, so I think it was like instant for you to decide, okay, I'm going to study music, I'm going to be a professional in this.
Yeah, I always knew I wanted to be in music as a career, and I'm very lucky. My parents always supported me and encouraged me. I never had to deal with a parent saying like, go be a doctor or a lawyer. They were so great. They were so supportive. So I went to a very well-respected university, a conservatory for music in Ohio.
Nice. Well, you've also traveled abroad a lot. And actually, we knew your work in American Spaces in the Middle East.
Yes.
Can you tell us more about that experience?
Yeah.
How did you get there?
It was so incredible. I mean, I feel so lucky to have had a lot of opportunities to travel. It's really something that I love so much. I love to go to different places and see and experience the different ways that people do things, the different ways people live their lives and their culture and their food, their music, the style, everything. I just find that so inspiring and fascinating. And how did we get that opportunity? So in 2015, I did my first tour for this program that's run by the U.S. State Department called American Music Abroad. Wow. And this is sort of an extension of the Jazz Ambassadors program. It's just at a certain point, they opened the program up to more music than just jazz, anything that's considered American music. So bluegrass, gospel, etc. And I remember getting a call that said, hey, do you want to go to Pakistan?
Wow.
It was celebrating 70 years of Pakistan's founding. I think it was in 2017, and it was from 1947 to 2017.
You were a jazz ambassador for the U.S. Department. How did that start? And of course, that led you to travel around the world and bring music and American culture to these places. How did that start and how was the experience?
The experience was amazing. It really started because in 2014, I did a performance in New York City, and I got a very positive review in the New York Times.
Oh, that's big.
It was a very nice moment in my career. And I think someone who was involved in the American Music Abroad program saw that review, and they invited me to audition for the program. I auditioned with my group, and we were accepted. And so in 2015, I did my first tour. It was for 1 month, and we traveled to 4 different countries. We went to Moldova, Azerbaijan, Slovenia, and Malta. It was really so incredible. And the wonderful thing, I think, about this program is that you're not only there to share American, jazz, American culture, you perform, you teach, but you're also there to take in some of the local culture. So we collaborated with local performers and musicians. I sang 1 or 2 songs in their language.
How so?
I mean, I just learned, what I would do is I would write down the lyrics like phonetically so that I could, and because I had studied, in school, I studied Spanish, I studied French, I speak a little bit of Italian, parlo solo un po' italiano. So if it's a language that's sort of based on like a romance language, we would say, then it's pretty easy for me. Okay. When we went to Pakistan and I had to sing in Urdu, that was really hard.
I imagine the really phonetics.
Yeah, it's just really different sounds. But we do our best. And it's, I think, a really beautiful gesture that audiences appreciate, that we are also taking in their culture and we're going to take it back to the United States with us. So I do think it's a program that can really illustrate for people the ways in which there's this universal language, right? This common language and love for music. And so even if you're coming from really different cultures, there's always room to connect.
Exactly, yeah. Could you share with us a memorable experience from your time being a jazz ambassador to the U.S. Department of State?
Yeah, there's so many. I feel like when I think about these experiences, I'm touched. People are so welcoming. I mean, people opened their homes to us and fed us. They cooked for us, you know. When we went to Malaysia, Pat picked out some. My husband, Pat, plays the contrabajo, and he tours with me. And I remember in Malaysia, he saw this fabric that he really loved. And somebody's like auntie made him a shirt out of
With
this.
that fabric.
Yes. You know, and now we think of that trip every time he wears that shirt, you know.
Wow.
Or people, when we were here, the first time I was here, Pat has been to Chile 25 times. This trip is his 25th trip. So he's Chileno at this point. This is my third time here. But I think the first time we were here, we played 2 festivals all the way in the south of the country.
In the south of Chile.
Yeah.
Wow.
And
in Punta Arenas, right?
Yes, in Punta Arenas. And there was one other town that we visited.
Puerto Varas,
Yes.
Puerto Montt, okay.
Puerto Natales?
Puerto Natales.
That was the one,
One
yes.
of the southernmost cities
It
in Chile.
was incredible. But somebody gave us this little, like an ornament, like a Christmas tree ornament.
Okay.
And every year we hang it on our Christmas tree and we think of our time in, you know, this incredible, part of the world. And I don't know, I find that everywhere we go, there are beautiful people.
It's like you take a piece of every place you visit.
You really do. You really do.
For audiences are young people from the American Spaces Network here in Chile, and some of them are hosted by universities that have music careers and choirs. So it's important for us to highlight what do American universities can offer to international students who are interested in music or arts from your experience.
I think that the training in American universities for music and art is really top-notch, very disciplined. A lot of the people who are teaching in these universities have, you know, studied or performed in New York. And really, I mean, New York is just an incredible music scene. The best of the best from the whole world come to New York to play and study and meet other musicians. And then they often go to other parts of the country, of the United States, to teach, live, perform. But they have that experience of really, also in California has really top-notch people, Chicago. I mean, there are big cities with, very competitive music and art scenes, but in a way that I think pushes all of us to grow and
from each other's talent.
Yes, and and that's the other thing. It's like there are these really incredible communities there of artists, of musicians, and so you get connected to all of these people who are interested in these same things and who are really working to keep growing and get better.
Very good. And in that line of thought, in your opinion, how can involvement in a band or music-related activities can enhance a student's academic performance and critical thinking skills?
I mean, I really do believe in, the arts, that experience in the arts translates to other areas of your life.
Yeah.
In a number of ways. First of all, I think, especially if singing in choirs or playing in a band, I think learning how to collaborate with other people is so valuable, so important. How to blend with other voices and players is a skill for many other parts of your life. I also think that it's confidence building too, to have to perform, to learn how to speak in front of people. That's a skill that would really translate not only to school, but to any professional career.
Exactly, to any work field.
Yeah, so I do think that, and because a lot of times you have to think on the fly when you're in these settings, when you're in performance, you have to be able to be flexible and, identify if something is going wrong or what's going right, how to read the room, we say,
Yeah.
So those are skills I really think translate to so many other professions and situations.
That's right. And well, we've heard you've been very successful. And actually, in 2022, very recently, you received an, correct me if I'm wrong, MAC or MAC?
Yeah, exactly, MAC.
MAC Award for Major Female Artist. How do you think this recognition has impacted your career, and what goals do you have moving forward?
That award is so beautiful because it's such a nice acknowledgement from the community, from the music community within New York City. It's just the awards, people, your peers are voting. So it's a really beautiful gesture and feels, it just feels so nice to be recognized by your community. So goals for my career are, I want to keep traveling. I really love to do things like this. I would love to teach abroad. I really enjoy working with students, especially, I think, in places like this where maybe people don't have as much access to teachers and study programs. We have a lot of that in the US. I know that's not the case everywhere. So it feels so great to be able to bring that to other people.
To everywhere you go.
Yeah.
And talking about that, you are in Santiago now. You have some performances booked. And actually, Gabrielle performed at our American Space. Yeah. It's fantastic.
Thank you.
And also, what brought you to Chile in the first place? This is your third time here.
Yes.
And how did you come for the first time? What was the, what made you come?
Well, the first time, it was so exciting. It was in 2019, and I was asked to play the Providencia Jazz Festival. Which was, it's a big festival, and outside, a beautiful setting, and a great audience, really wonderful audience who seemed to just really love and appreciate the music. We played in Las Condes as well. We played that festival, and we did those two festivals in Patagonia. So that was such an incredible trip. And that's really what brought me to Chile the first time. I'm so grateful, and I'm always looking forward to coming back here.
Yes, hopefully we can have you again very soon. Have you visited other countries in Latin America?
No.
No,
this is the only one.
Only Chile. Oh, wow.
This is the place.
Wow.
Yeah.
Very good. As a master vocal teacher for organizations like the National Young Arts Foundation and Sing Nasium.
Yeah, very good. Perfect.
What principles or techniques do you emphasize when working with aspiring vocalists?
So as far as techniques go, I try to really impress upon everybody that no matter what kind of music you want to sing, you need a technique, a vocal technique. You should be studying, taking voice lessons so that you know your instrument. Just like people learn to play the piano, just basic, like a classical technique, I would say, right? For any instrument, bass, piano, violin, somebody could learn, they're gonna learn a classical technique, and then maybe they wanna go play gypsy jazz on the violin, but this kind of basic technique is like a foundation for going all kinds of places. And I think that's so important to have with your voice. So I really am always bothering my students about this. And we work, of course, like if they're coming to me for jazz things, we work on things that are specific to, I would say, like the language of jazz. Swing feel, so your rhythm, phrasing, things like that. But the other thing I try to teach people is a sort of approach to performing, and that is something that I had a great teacher who taught me to not be a selfish person on stage and to really be on stage in service of the music and your audience. You're not there really actually to make it all about you and to show everybody all the cool stuff you can do with your voice. That feels fun for you, but it's actually not fun to watch. It's really so important to be there and be open and communicate with your audience. And I want to, when I'm performing, it's like I want to take people away from everything that's bad.
Okay.
All the
to
troubles,
make them feel good. Yeah.
I want them to be there and like sort of escape for an hour or however long we're together and to feel things. We play music and we love music because it makes us feel things.
Exactly.
So if I'm not doing that, then why am I doing it?
That's a very strong point. And actually, we saw you perform at our American Space where you involved the audience. And that's something that you often do, right? They are in the main stage for you.
Yeah.
They are the most important part
Yes.
of the performance. How did you start doing this? We know that you visited an American Space in the Middle East.
Yep.
And you also got that experience where the public also was involved in the performance.
Mm-hmm.
So is that you came up by yourself? Did you see somewhere else like this kind of technique? How did you come up with it? Because it was pretty fun.
Thank you. Thank you. I think I brainstormed a bit with my husband, Patrick. I think we just feel it's really important that we don't want to be separate from our audience. We want to mix it up with the people who come to see us. Because I think that when you do that, then they're inspired, right? Because again, the other reason we're doing this is because we want people to get interested in this music.
Exactly.
We want people to feel that it's fun and not, I think a lot of people also with jazz have an idea that it's this very intellectual thing and they don't really understand it. Yeah,
people,
and
yes,
it's not,
I've heard
that's not true. It's a dance music. That's how it started. And there are kinds of jazz that are more intellectual. There's many different types of jazz music and we want people to sort of be inspired to find whatever it is that they like about this music and explore that. And maybe start, pick up an instrument themselves or start singing or, just feel inspired to be involved in music.
Tell us more about the types of jazz and especially what type of jazz. We're not experts, that's why we have you here. What type of jazz you like go to is your thing? So
I feel like I have, I work kind of with two different groups at home in New York and also when I'm traveling. I love what we would call the Great American Songbook, which is, so in the United States, there was like what is considered a sort of golden age of American popular music from, people would say like maybe the 30s, 20s or 30s, all the way through the 60s.
Okay.
And that's like these writers, you may recognize these names like George Gershwin, Cole Porter, Irving Berlin, Duke Ellington, players like Count Basie, Lester Young, these great artists, again, who are like such a part of American culture. Something that I think is so amazing is everywhere we have traveled, and I mean everywhere, people know certain songs, like they know Stardust. There are certain American songs that people recognize and love everywhere. And that is, I just think really, it makes me so happy that that's something like an American thing that is appreciated by people all over the world. So I really love that kind of music, these American standards, we call them at home, because they are songs that just everybody knows. Everybody knows these songs. And then I also like to incorporate some more modern music, artists like Stevie Wonder, Joni Mitchell. I think for me, this American Songbook like still is continuing.
Okay, it didn't stop in the 60s.
No, it didn't. There are people who think that, but they're wrong. It's still going. It's still growing. I think people are still contributing to it. And that's a great thing. Otherwise, it's just like an artifact, and it needs, it keeps going and reflecting the culture now. You know, those songs that were written, especially like during World War II, the amazing thing about them is they speak to themes that I think still people can still connect with. But I think it's important to keep going and still reflect the current time.
Amazing. I was not a fan of jazz before, and now with all of this knowledge and seeing you perform, it's really a thing. Like
it's for everybody.
It's like you said, like many types of jazz. It's not only like the stereotype that we might have. Now, talking about American culture, our American Spaces, one of our duties is to promote American culture and information about the U.S. How do you think jazz contributes to the awareness of American culture? In like talking about abroad, like how does that reflect abroad?
So I think that jazz music, the beautiful thing about it is there's such an emphasis on improvising and like putting an individual stamp on the music, because there's a shared repertoire. We actually went, I went, and my husband and the pianist who's here with us, and his wife, who's also a piano player, we went to a jam session last night. It was a jazz jam session, and they're playing songs, American songs that I recognize, that we all know. But the incredible thing is that like everybody can play them differently. Yeah, every single person can bring their own
style.
Yeah, their own style, their own life experience to it. And I think that jazz encourages people to make choices, make their own choices, express their thoughts, and sort of be true to their lived experience. I think it really encourages people to do that, and I think that's a really great thing.
Yes, it sounds like jazz is very free. It's a very free art form. It's not very square like we say in Chile.
Yes, we have this expression at home. And like, whereas classical music, and please, it's not, I realize that even classical players, they're of course bringing their own individual playing to the music, but the piece is a written piece, and that is what it is in many ways. Whereas jazz, what's on the paper, what's on the written music is just the starting point.
Oh, you never know how it's going to end.
Exactly.
Oh, that sounds exciting, actually.
It is. It's so fun. And for me, I know it's even like, as I've gotten older and have more experience, it's like with every experience, I'm become more confident to make those choices, to trust my instincts and bring myself to the music. And to play it the way I want to play it in that moment.
Very inspiring. Well, we unfortunately are coming to an end with this interview. Lastly, before we finish, I would like to ask you any upcoming projects, performances that you have coming up. Well, in Chile, as we mentioned before, Gabrielle will be performing at different places in Santiago and in the south of Chile. What's next for Gabrielle?
Well, I just released a new album, actually. It's brand new. It came out on the 3rd of May. It's called Beautiful Moons Ago. So I hope that you guys will check it out. It's on Spotify. And all the places you will find music. So I am still promoting that album at home and even outside of where I live. So I'm really focusing on that. I have other, projects that I'm working on. And then actually I hope to go to the beach this summer and relax a little bit.
Take a little break from all these performances.
Yes, and then in the fall I'm traveling again. We're going to be in the UK for performances. So hopefully this summer get a little downtime.
For you, summer would be like June, July.
Yes. Right. Sorry. While you guys are having winter, I'm going to be at the beach.
Oh, amazing. Well, thank you, Gabrielle, for coming, for your time, for experiencing, or actually, we are thankful for experiencing with you the power of jazz and American culture at our American Space. And well, it was a pleasure having you.
It's my pleasure. Thank you so much, and hope to see you again soon.
Thank you.